If you're trying to move the needle as much as manufacturers are in electric vehicles, there's no such thing as old news. Oh, sure, it was at the CES show or it was at the LA Auto Show. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the heartland. This was your chance to explain that. I believe, from my perspective, in spending the full day at the show, waiting for the car to drop out of the ceiling, this was a fail. This was a fail for the heartland.
Jeff Stearns, connected through cars. If they're bigwigs, we'll have them on the show. And yes, we'll talk about cars and everything else. Here he is now, Jeff Stearns.
Jeff Stearns, connected through cars with my good friend and third-time guest now, Warren Browne. Now, Warren is a former General Motors senior exec that started with the humble beginnings of junior mailboy, later senior mailboy, am I right?
I got that first promotion. It was fantastic.
Who ran manufacturing Brazil, Poland, Germany, and eventually negotiated with the land location and the government and customs and the unions and the construction of the General Motors plant in Russia. Warren is now our man on the street. He spent some time at the North American International Auto Show, also known as the Detroit Auto Show, on the press days, and he's got some stuff to share with us. So please, Warren. Oh, and Warren, let's not forget, currently CEO of the company he founded, WP Browne, also known as RFQ Insights, helping manufacturers dial back their forecast, because if they all sold as many cars as they forecasted, I think our annual numbers would be somewhere between 1 and 2 billion sales per year. Am I right, Warren?
Well, 1 billion at least. It was a good show. It wasn't a great show. So I will summarize the show this way. It was a dealer show, in my view. And what is the reality of today and always has been with dealers is that they sell what they have. So,
can you explain to the audience, Warren, what is a dealer show?
Well, this would be in the last time I was at the North American show was in 2019. And it was clearly dominated by what manufacturers, GM, Ford, Chrysler, Toyota, Honda, Mercedes, were bringing to the party in terms of the displays, the amount of press conferences that they had, their interviews that they did with the press, and all of the what is typically historically an auto show structure. In this particular auto show, post-COVID, it's certainly scaled down. And I'm calling it a dealer show because it was a combination of probably what manufacturers gave as support, and what the cars that the manufacturers brought to help the dealers. But in essence, it didn't have all the pizzazz and sparkle and the two-tiered displays that you had in old shows. And that's why I'm kind of referring to it as a dealer show.
And staffed by dealers, not just manufacturer staffing or spokesmodels, etc.
Correct.
Dealers meeting customers trying to make an appointment for Tuesday to show them a car.
And you didn't have the glamour models explaining what the vehicles were, etc. So it was scaled down. It was a good show. And the only time that I saw that the manufacturers were really engaged was when you did the EV ride, or you did the Bronco or Jeep ride over at the Ford and Jeep centers. That was really heavy manufacturer oriented. But the rest of it was just kind of like, a Chevrolet stand and here's our Chevrolet vehicles. So what I saw was what dealers are currently selling. A lot of gas-powered vehicles. Okay? If you walk the floor and you weren't savvy, you would have a hard time seeing the electric vehicles. Now, there are some exceptions. Obviously, GMC showed their Sierra electric, and Ram showed their Rev. And they had nice signs on those saying all electric, etc. Equinox as well. But the essence of it was a gasoline show, and that's what shocked me. Okay, so you have this conflict now between what the OEMs are saying about their vision's going to be, and now we have an auto show, the first Heartland motor show, where there's some electric vehicles coming out in the Heartland, not in California or Florida or New York, but in the Heartland. Here's your show. Go explain to journalists from all over the country now what you're going to do to capture the hearts and minds of consumers with electric vehicles. That's what I thought I was going to. Now, I could be wrong. So I go to the first Cadillac press conference thinking, hey, they're going to be pressing the Cadillac Escalade IQ. Not on the floor, but they're going to, it's going to drop from the ceiling somewhere. No. Here's what they did. They did a press conference on the 2025 Cadillac CT5 sedan. I couldn't have imagined a more boring presentation. Okay. Why? Because it looked like the 2023 CT5, unless you were the design engineer for General Motors.
And it certainly wasn't Bob Lutz arriving in a MiG.
It was not, or Bob rappelling down the wall to introduce the next generation Cadillac. No, that wasn't there. But I said, okay, better stuff's coming. So the GMC press conference was next. What do they roll out? The Sierra EV? Nope. Did they roll out any of the EVs that I know they're coming out with in the next year or two? Nope. They roll out the 2024 gasoline Acadia. Okay. I thought, okay, Jeep, the third press conference that is going to be at the show, they're really going to have something. Okay. Because they're a little behind on electric vehicles, except for the Wrangler, 4X, 4XE, but they're behind. So I figured they're going to really do that. No. What did they push? And their show was better. I think that Cadillac and GMC kind of like phoned in their presentations, honestly. Jeep did a good job. They had ads. They had all the things that you would expect from what I would call a 2019 auto show. They did a great job. But what do they roll out? A 2024 Gladiator pickup truck.
There must have been swooning, not as much as with the Acadia.
I mean, they all looked, the CT5, the Acadia, and certainly the Gladiator, looked like last year's stuff. Right? Last year's stuff. And then the night before, Ford touts their facelifted F-150 gasoline version. Dealers sell what they have.
That's right.
It was clear to me in terms of emotion, this was a dealer show. This was a dealer show to sell what we have. And so from my walk around, so the tone was different, and I probably had a different expectation.
This was like a tent sale to get rid of inventory.
Well, it was a pretty expensive tent sale. Manufacturers kicked in dough. There's no question about that.
But it was really a dealership sales event more than a this was not Detroit, Geneva, Tokyo, LA. Introduction.
Germany, IAA. No, certainly was not. Scaled down. Now, where manufacturers really weighed in is that they, and again, I was excited. The night before, they talked about the electric vehicle drive session inside the Huntington Place arena.
So you're going to drive some cars. You are jacked.
Right. Well, as it turned out, this was an EV ride experience.
Not ride and drive.
No. You got to sit in the passenger seat while a driver drove you around the test track in an EV. The best thing about it was that at least the marketing folk had the common sense to capture my ID, my email, and I drove the Volkswagen ID4, which I was very, very impressed with, in terms of especially the interior, the way they did what the driver sees and what's the middle, iPad or whatever they're calling it these days. I think Volkswagen did a good job. And the very next day, I got an email saying, "Thank you for coming to see Volkswagen. If there's anything more we can do for you, here's how you contact us. And here's some more information about the ID4. Thank you very much for spending time with us." So the marketing guys at the manufacturer level were certainly engaged in bridging the gap between manufacturers and dealers and supporting them. I thought that was very well done. But it was a ride session, not a ride and drive session. As I walked around the floor, I said, okay, I'm going to find out what's really interesting here. And I found what I felt were two significant vehicles. And I think both of them are going to surprise you, Jeff. The first one, which really grabbed my attention, of what Lutz would call gotta have styling. You looked at it. I thought it was a Lexus. It was on the Buick stand. Okay, and it's the 2024 Buick Envista. I'll wait till you put that up. Nice color, nice styling, predominantly displayed on the Buick stand, and in terms of what historically has been showcase stuff. I thought that from the front end, if you take a look at the front end there and how it's very well styled. It's a very well styled SUV. It has the new Buick badge on the front of it. Yet it's a gasoline powered vehicle. This is what we're going to have in 2024. Come buy it. 2025 and 2026, when we're going to launch 3 EVs, don't pay attention to that. Pay attention to this. But this was well done. I think it was one of the cars of the show. The other one, which may surprise you, is over at the Toyota stand. I was very, very impressed, again, with the Toyota Crown. Gotta have styling. It's kind of like a Cheeton SUV in terms of the way that they did the rear end. I was obviously enamored by the red color, sure. But this car, I think, was like $46,000. It was well done. And it's everything that Avalon and everything that I think could compete with a BMW or, a Mercedes C-Class vehicle in terms of how it looked on the inside. Obviously, they did this one up for the show, but it was very, very impressive. And it stood out relative to the rest of the gasoline. Again, this is a gasoline-powered version. I think that they're coming out with a hybrid because they're Toyota. But this was a gas version vehicle along with the Envista that stood out.
And not hybrid.
I don't think that they showed the hybrid, but I believe from walking around there, they will ultimately have a hybrid version of this, if not already for 2024. But it's a hybrid. It's not an electric vehicle. What I felt, and for whatever my opinion's worth, I don't have any. I can't hold the candle to some of these auto writers, but I thought the two best vehicles at the show were the two that you just showed in terms of capturing the customer's attention of, I got to have that car. They did have electric vehicles there. I think the one that they tried to make stand out, like the Sierra was silver, the Ram Bev was black, the Lightning was blue, dark blue, classical pickup colors, right? The one that they really tried to make unique and kind of stand out with different styling, I felt, and did a good job, was the Chevy Equinox. In the way that I do my numbers for the industry, the Equinox is going to be one of the high volume EVs. Mary has said that it's going to be around $30,000. It will get the federal tax credits. It will attempt, until they bring it back, to substitute some of that Bolt volume.
Now, not all of us are on a first-name basis with the CEO of GM. So you said, Mary said.
With Mary Barra, the CEO of GM, who said this is going to be around $30,000. But the Equinox was there, the Blazer was there. There was, let's say, a handful of vehicles that are not being sold yet that are electric. But they weren't promoted.
They got to sell what they got now?
No, they weren't promoted to the journalists. What they do, I want to go back for the Consumer Day with Janet, my wife, and take a look at it from a consumer perspective. But this was my heartburn. Legacy manufacturing, and I mean GM, Ford, Chrysler, Toyota, Honda, Hyundai, Kia, need to convince the heartland that the move to electric vehicles has a value proposition to it, is something interesting, is something that you need to shop, consider, and buy. And they had all of the press there. And they didn't take the time to push them. And my point is, if you're trying to move the needle as much as manufacturers are in electric vehicles, there's no such thing as old news. Oh, sure, it was at the CES show or it was at the LA Auto Show. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the heartland. This is Mid-America. They're not convinced yet. This was your chance to explain that. I believe, from my perspective, in spending the full day at the show, waiting for the car to drop out of the ceiling, this was a fail. This was a fail for the heartland.
Detroit Auto Show, North American International Auto Show, a fail, according to Warren Browne.
Correct, because I know dealers know how to sell gas versions. That's a given. Okay? As a matter of fact, there's probably short supply. They don't know how to sell electric vehicles.
Can we look at this floor plan of the event?
Absolutely.
This is very interesting to me. In the upper right corner in the green, we've got luxury import manufacturers, and smaller than the footprint, or about the same as the Ford footprint, about the same as the Chevrolet footprint, much smaller than the Stellantis Chrysler, about the same as the Jeep. This is, it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, a dozen-ish, 11, 12 manufacturers. And absent Mercedes?
Well, again, I think that the upper right corner green are what the dealers brought to the party. In terms of vehicles, I'm sure they got some manufacturer support. I mean, to think that the manufacturers weren't supportive of their dealers, I don't want to leave your listeners with that impression. That's not true. But clearly, premium manufacturers said, I need to be there but I'm not going to break a pick here. And in the old days, Mercedes, BMW, they had the biggest stands, right? They had the biggest stands at the show because it was the North American International Auto Show.
This was the daddy, the one I left out earlier on the list, Frankfurt. But this is Detroit. This is at least the figurative birthplace of the automotive industry. I understand there's some countries saying we built a car before Henry Ford. I understand that.
So the next to the green is the ED ride track. And you know, the manufacturers did a good job there. But I waited as a journalist 15 minutes. Tomorrow at the show, it's going to be 60 minutes. So it's going to be very representative. It's going to be kind of like the wait time that you're going to need when you recharge your vehicle on the road. So you'll get the whole customer experience there.
Maybe books will come back.
But for the rest, I mean, the suppliers, I don't even want to talk about. It wasn't very good.
Warren, what did they highlight on the ride? Because you were being driven. Was it the sound levels? Was it the braking? Was it the accelerator? What were they trying to highlight with the professional drivers taking you out?
Good question. Good question. Clearly, they were explaining the interior of the vehicle, and for a segment, which is the back segment, the top of the picture there, they demonstrated very well the acceleration of the vehicle. Okay, it was a neck snapper in the ID4. There's no question about that, Jeff. Okay, and they demonstrated that. But this wasn't one where you're in the vehicle for 5 minutes. They're not going to explain why you need to buy one of these versus a gasoline version, or what your recharging time is, or how big the battery is. It was more of sit in the car, what do you sense? And the ID4 was very well done.
Well, I think when you talked about the acceleration, I mean that instant, no RPM needed torque of an electric car is definitely departs from internal combustion, no doubt about it. But man, the lifestyle difference, if you're not in a major, not even all major metros, if you're not in certain pockets of the country, that's a tough one.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back and see if the retail day, that's what I would call it, versus the press day. If the retail days are different, I need to go back and do that. I need to determine whether I'm going to raise my grade from a fail, maybe up to a C-, depending upon what's there. As I walked around and did my own intelligence, the Cadillac folk did tell me that the Escalade IQ was going to be for the retail days. And the Volkswagen folks, I wrangled out of them that the ID Buzz van is going to be there. To both, I questioned, and why didn't you have them for the show, for the press? And they both said, don't know, just didn't get here. So here was an opportunity, I feel, that was missed. A lot of great stuff. You walk around, they had all the vehicles there, the Ford track where you could ride the Bronco up and down, or ride in the Bronco up and down on a track, or the Ford Bronco, or the Jeep Wrangler. It was good. Okay, it was good. But the summary I want to leave you with is you're in the heartland. You're with all the journalists. You didn't talk about where you're going to go. And I found that to be odd. To close, now I don't get a vote on this, okay? I'm not a voter. I'm not part of the Car of the Year, Truck of the Year awards, but I do like to weigh in my 2 cents. So I want to go on the record. Is that okay?
Please.
Car of the Year, Toyota Crown. They are up for vote. I'd buy that sedan tomorrow at $45,000. Incredible. This is not your father's Avalon, okay? It's a nice vehicle. Utility, no question, the Kia EV9. The EV9, why? It's a 3-seater. It's going to start at $56,000. And so what I view this as, forget about the Rivian SUV for like 90 or the Hummer. This is the first mainstream 3-seater EV.
3-row. Not 3-seater, 3-row, right?
3-row, apologize. You're correct. That's going to be somewhere below $60,000. Incredible. And then finally, the truck, Chevrolet Colorado. This is everything you ever wanted in a Silverado. And I don't mean that to disparage Silverado. This is a well-done mid-sized truck with all the bells and whistles. And it's I think it's going to be good. So Crown, EV9, and Chevrolet Colorado, those are my choices.
Warren is on record with his choices for car, truck, and SUV of the year. We'll see how that pans out. If you win, we'll make a new video. If not, we'll just let it fade.
Fair enough.
This has been Jeff Stearns, Connected Through Cars.